Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
I'm actually very excited about the opportunities we have as a state.
Governor Edwards gets right to work on 4 more years.
The fun part about beekeeping is being able to teach other people.
Our trip to Gueydan to the Wright Bee Farm.
It's part wild and part carefully tended.
A majestic garden right in our backyard. Hi everyone, I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Moreau. Much more on those top stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, a look at some other news making headlines across Louisiana. 8 regional locations of the State Office of Motor Vehicles reopened Monday after a cyber attack crippled agency operations last week. Other branch locations will also come back online as there's certainty that computer systems are operating as they should be. The regional offices are in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Thibodaux, Lafayette, Lake Charles, Alexandria, Monroe, and Shreveport. Governor John Bel Edwards issued a declaration to ensure people or businesses won't face fines or penalties because of this cyber attack. The attack damaged 10% of state government computers, but the governor says no data was lost. A leading provider of communication transparency says beware. Scammers are using new strategies to take advantage of consumers this holiday season. First Orion says the biggest trend is known as enterprise spoofing. That's when scammers use stolen data to impersonate trusted businesses or charities. Be cautious of spam calls or numbers you do not recognize. More than 46,000 people lost their Medicaid coverage this month because they didn't respond to letters warning about their eligibility. The State Department of Health resumed a process that automatically kicks people off Medicaid if they don't respond to annual renewal info requests. After more than a year without a bishop, the Diocese of Shreveport has a new leader. Monsignor Francis Malone will become the 3rd bishop of the diocese that covers 16 North Louisiana parishes and some Mississippi counties. That's about 40,000 Catholics. He comes to Louisiana from the Diocese of Little Rock, Arkansas. Opelousas, the parish seat of St. Landry Parish, will celebrate its tricentennial in 2020, and people are being asked to take part in the festivities. Residents will be able to contribute to the creation of a new mural designed to celebrate 300 Opelousas activities or events. Once complete, an official poster will be made. A grant from the Acadiana Center for the Arts to Opelousas Tourism will help fund the project. Fresh from the fight of his political life, a 40,000 vote runoff victory to keep his job, the governor is busy laying out his plans for his second term, and he gave us an overview.
I'm actually very excited about the opportunities we have as a state.
With First Lady Donna Edwards at his side, Governor John Bel Edwards stood in the foyer of the mansion to address media in his first post-election news conference.
I will fight any effort to return our state to uncertainty, instability, and deficits. Just not going to go there.
The first place he does want to go is education.
Early childhood will be my highest priority for new education investments in the second term. But it is also true that our teachers need and deserve additional pay raises to get them at least to the Southern average. Obviously, I'm interested in continuing to better fund higher education as well. We just had our first new investment in higher education in a decade, but it is also true that we have one of the lowest expenditures per student, in the country. You're going to see us focus relentlessly on the master plan for higher education that the Commissioner, Kim Hunter-Reid, and the Board of Regents unveiled a couple of months ago. It has the power to transform our state like probably nothing that we've done with respect to talent development and creating more opportunity and prosperity. And in a nutshell, it envisions that by 2030, 60% of the working age adults in Louisiana will have post-secondary credential or degree.
The governor says infrastructure will remain a top priority.
We're already making significant new investments and commitments all across our state, and because of a $700 million infrastructure investment that was approved this year that'll actually start next year, we're going to have additional projects that are going to be funded above and beyond what would ordinarily be possible. It's also a good thing that we have surplus dollars because we're going to make sure that we can invest those in infrastructure, both roads and bridges, but also coastal restoration and protection. We have more coastal restoration and protection projects underway right now than at any point in Louisiana's history.
He will continue to fight for an increase to the minimum wage.
$7.25 in 2019 and soon to be 2020 is not a meaningful, adequate minimum wage. And we have the largest gender pay gap in the country. That offends me, and the vast majority of people in Louisiana want us to rectify that situation as well.
Louisiana has been one of the more aggressive states in folding cybersecurity into the list of potential catastrophes that could trigger an emergency declaration.
It is the new normal, to be honest with you, and it's not going to go away. And so we're going to have to continue to focus on this and do more. We have made great progress on this front. We created the State Cybersecurity Commission and we're investing in cyber programs and resources across the state of Louisiana. And of course, as you know, it's not just state level entities that get hit. More often than not, it's local entities, and we're working very diligently with them as well so that they can improve their posture so that they can withstand these types of attacks.
Attacks from within an even more conservative legislature will also be a challenge. Southern University political science professor Albert Samuels says it may be the most conservative in 100 years.
I just hope that the legislature this time has an eye on, if they want independence, that's great, but obstructionism and independence are not the same thing. And so I'm just looking to have a speaker with whom I can work and leadership in the legislature that I can work with, and really that's true for the Senate as well. I know that our state is much stronger and much better today than it was 4 years ago by every relevant metric, and I have every confidence that 4 years from now we're going to be better and stronger still because of the work that we are going to do.
And a reminder, as the governor's second term officially begins January 13th, join LPB for live statewide coverage of Inauguration Day 2020 from the state capitol in Baton Rouge.
As you pop open the fridge looking for that leftover honey-baked ham, did you ever think about where the honey came from or the bees that make it possible? We took a trip to Vermilion Parish, the town of Gueydan, and learned just how important some of those annoying, buzzing insects are to our everyday life. It's a family business and labor of love.
A few years ago, well, probably a few decades ago now, I gave him some hives for Christmas. And so we went from 1 hive to 2 hives to 10 hives. Bees somewhere they didn't want them. Then when I retired from teaching, he decided I needed more to do, so we went from 10 hives, now we have 150 hives.
The Wright Apiary or bee farm in Gueydan keeps Lonnie and Timmy Melanson as busy as their bees.
The fun part about beekeeping is being able to teach other people about how important these honeybees are. They're the most important animal or living being on the planet right now.
Experts say all the buzz about the honeybees is more than warranted. Bees are responsible for pollinating or fertilizing more than 30% of the crops we grow for food.
I think that if you take honeybees out of the equation, it gives the humans just a few years before they start dying off because of the amount of food that would disappear, because bees pollinate. And that's the importance of bees. They go from one plant to another plant, and they cross-pollinate.
The honey they make is a bonus. Keeping the bees and their hives happy and in good condition is essential.
And we go into every hive about once every 2 weeks. We try and do a 14-day open hive, make sure everybody's healthy in the hive. We only harvest honey twice a year. We'll harvest once around the 4th of July, and then we'll harvest around Halloween. In between, you know what to look for if a hive is not healthy. The bees will also tell you, like when we were standing outside of that hive a while ago, you could see that they were happy, they were busy, they were going in and out, they were bringing in pollen. If something goes wrong in that hive, if the queen, for some reason, it gets injured or they're going to have to raise another queen, their whole behavior changes. So that's what we look for.
When they say busy as a bee, that's really like a real thing.
That's a real thing. And bees have different jobs depending on the age. The youngest bees, when they first hatch, they become nurse bees and they take care of the queen and they feed the other babies and the larvae. And then when they get older, they become guard bees. And then the oldest bees are the bees that are out foraging. So it really will wear their wings out pretty quickly if they have to travel far, go back and forth. We try and set our bees up so they don't have to travel too far to find a source of nutrition. A bee's lifespan is about 6 weeks, except for the queen. The queen will live anywhere between 2 and 3 and 4 years.
The queen bee, who is noticeably bigger, is an integral part of the honey-making process. Her only job is making more bees. She lays thousands of eggs a day, and when she can no longer do that, other bees start preparing her replacement.
Without the queen, then there's no one laying eggs. And so the bees will get real nervous. It doesn't take them long. Her pheromone is the smell that keeps them in that hive. And so in about 2 days, that smell will start to wane. They'll take one of the eggs that she laid, and they'll feed it just royal jelly. And royal jelly comes from glands on the tops of their heads. The other babies are fed royal jelly and honey with some pollen mixed together. We call it bee bread. But this baby will get just royal jelly, and then she'll grow into a queen because of that.
The new chosen queen must make a maiden flight outside the hive. While outside, she'll mate with several drone bees, and if she survives outside, she'll return to the hive and immediately start laying eggs. This apiary or bee farm in Gueydan is one of 6 the Molosons have in the area. They produce up to 1,500 pounds of honey a year. The honey harvest is not only time-consuming, but a lot of heavy lifting.
We have to go into that hive, we have to smoke those bees down and smoke them off of the boxes that have the honey in them, and then remove those honey boxes, we call them supers, from the hive. Put them on a truck, cover them up, get another one, put them on the truck, cover them up. Then you bring them back to where you're going to extract that honey. You put them in a centrifuge and it spins real fast, and then that honey will come out that way.
When we do our harvesting, we don't heat any of the honey. We don't run it through fine filters. Only thing we have at the bottom of our extractor is a screen, and that basically just grabs bee parts and wax. So all your pollen and all your propolis and all your health benefits goes into our honey.
Lonnie and Timmy Moloson's little South Louisiana bee farm got national attention back in 2017. At a rare joint bee conference in Galveston, they took top prize.
The fun part about it is that we were first place from Little Wright, Louisiana. Second place was like from New York, and third place was Canada. So everybody was there. Where are y'all from? Who are you? And what is the source of your honey?
If you're interested in becoming a beekeeper or want to learn more about beekeeping, you can find a wealth of information at the Louisiana Beekeepers Association website. We have a link on our website, lpb.org. You may also enjoy attending their annual conference December 5th through 7th in Pineville.
Great story there. Hey, this Thanksgiving week is a good time to consider the more than 770,000 people in our state who don't know where their next meal is coming from.
This month's Louisiana Public Square explores food insecurity in the state and highlights available programs to help combat the issue.
I would say that one of the biggest challenges that we face at Market Umbrella and with our producers throughout the state is that we lack having enough people who are growing fresh fruits and vegetables. We see that there's a lot of commodity crop growers where they grow things like corn, sugar, soybeans, but convincing someone to go into small farming or farming for fruits and vegetables is really a challenge. And that's important. We want to make sure that we are as self-reliant as possible, that we have a lot that we can choose from locally, and that we have all the places to get it out to, and that these grocery stores we want to have in low-income neighborhoods have the best choices available.
You can catch an encore broadcast of Cultivating Food Security tonight at 8. Visit lpb.org/public square for more information.
Now to work being done along our coast.
When the Army Corps of Engineers created the Wax Lake Outlet in 1941, it was to prevent Morgan City from flooding. But that act unintentionally created one of the only deltas in coastal Louisiana that actually builds land.
Photographer Rex Q. Fortenberry joined the Coastal Protection Restoration Authority and some other environmental groups on an expedition of discovery.
We're out visiting Wax Lake Deltas, one of the only active deltas along the coast of Louisiana, and we're out here to actually show some of the characteristics of when you connect the river to the landscape, actually what kind of responses do you see in that landscape. And we're with CPRA and a couple of experts in the field of birds and plants and animals and fish, and with the press along to sort of just tell the story of an active delta.
We're standing on the Wax Lake subdelta it's a delta of the Atchafalaya River. This is one of just a few places left in coastal Louisiana where the Mississippi River, via the Atchafalaya River in this case, is still connected with its coast. And one of the things that we see here is land building, not just land building in the Atchafalaya Bay right here on the Wax Lake Outlet Delta, but also the preservation of all the wetlands to the north of us. So this really is an analog, I think, for the power of the river, what it can do in terms of both maintaining and restoring our coastal wetlands. And it gives us a natural laboratory also to work within to study how we might be able to design sediment diversions, which we're working on right now off of the Mississippi River, and enable us to make those successful.
So we're looking at brand new land that's been created dating back to the 1940s and really post the 1970s. This land is created through the mineral sediment that gets deposited coming out of the Wax Lake, which is part of the Atchafalaya system, which comes all the way back up from the old river complex structure north of Baton Rouge. This area of coastal Louisiana is the only area in coastal Louisiana that's not seeing significant or hardly any shoreline or coastal erosion. If you look at coastal Louisiana since the 1930s, we've lost over 2,000 square miles of land across our coast, a lot of it in the Breton Sound, Barataria, and Terrebonne basins. All those areas and basins have very, very little input from the Mississippi River or other freshwater sources, and without that input, then you're missing out on the nutrients and the sediment. That mineral deposits then can gain elevation in that deposition and then provide the base for all the different land organisms and trees and plants and grasses to grow.
When a delta forms, it's a beautiful orchestra between the mineral and geology of a landscape and the ecology of the landscape. The geology lays down clay and sand and mud, and that's sort of what builds the platform. And slowly that will emerge above the water, and that's when we think we see the delta for the first time. And as that elevation builds from that deposition of sediment, ecology grows on top of that. And so the elevation of the delta is a very good predictor of what the ecology will be. And the three phases of that is you see the subtidal ecology of submerged, what we call vegetation that grows underwater. That's in the very low elevations, the subtidal elevations of the delta. Then the intertidal, you see the marsh plants, the typha, the cattail, the emergent plants, big nelumbo with the white flowers, that's in the intertidal zone. And then the elevation will keep growing up to what we call the supratidal, and that's where you start seeing the trees like the one behind me. And that supratidal is where the trees actually colonize the landscape. And so if you give me the elevation, I can give you the ecology.
This is different than Carnarvon and Davis Pond. Carnarvon and Davis Pond were really built to control salinities in the basin. The fisheries in those basins and the vegetation and the wildlife needed that salinity control because the salinities were coming so far up into the Breton Basin and the Barataria Basin that it was changing the makeup of the system. It was changing the fisheries. And so in order to get those systems back, to get those fisheries back, fresh water needed to be introduced at one time. Those diversions do carry sediment. If you go and look at those two diversions, there are subdeltas being formed. There are areas where land is growing, but the primary reason those diversions exist is to control those salinities. This is a flood control project. This was dug by the Army Corps of Engineers in the 1940s to control flooding along the Atchafalaya River, basically to prevent Morgan City from flooding. This delta being built was an accident. I don't think there was any anticipation that after 30 years of this channel depositing sediment, you'd see land start to pop up. But you had a flood in 1973 that delivered a massive slug of sediment down into this bay, into Atchafalaya Bay, and then this land started cropping up. And every year since, because of the natural processes of how deltas work when they get those sediment slugs, the land has gotten larger and larger and larger down here.
The Mississippi River has plenty of power and plenty of sediment. The sediment's not what it was back in the 40s or 50s, but what we look at today to design a project is what's actually in the river today, and there's plenty of sediment and power in that river to build. This is a perfect example right here.
The other thing that this region represents, we're standing in a wildlife management area that's managed by the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. We've noticed today how many people are recreating. This is duck hunting season. You'll see people out here birding. You'll see people out here fishing, and so I think the public access and the recreational value, as well as what we talked about, storm surge protection of Morgan City with all the wetlands that are in this area, forested wetlands, trees. These are the kinds of value that this landscape brings to a lot of different people.
For more information on many of the ongoing coastal restoration efforts, visit MississippiRiverDelta.org.
It's called an urban oasis, LSU's Hilltop Arboretum in Baton Rouge.
In the 1920s, Emory and Annette Smith bought property on Highland Road, and it was there they raised their family and collected native plants.
Well, over the years, it's been shaped and sculpted to preserve Smith's mission to provide sanctuary through nature. LPB interns Emma Knight and Nick DeMuth produced this report. Atop a hill on Highland Road sits a luscious microcosm of native Louisiana landscape. It's known as LSU's Hilltop Arboretum.
It's a place of trees, shrubs, and plants, and specifically herbaceous plants. Plants that are not woody, they're soft and green, they grow fast, they flower fast, they seed fast. The kinds of plants you would see in the meadows at Hilltop. It's part wild and part carefully tended, where you've got neat edges, and that's what's so great about part of our work here is landscape design.
1929, Emory and Annette Smith bought this 14-acre property where they raised a family, farm, and diverse plant nursery. At the time, Emory was postmaster at LSU, and it was there that he became friends with Dr. Robert Reich, founder of the Robert Reich School of Landscape Architecture. Reich became a key figure in Emory's decision to donate this property to LSU.
Reich would bring his classes out to see Emory's grounds, and it was a wonderful place to show them all the plants that grew around Louisiana and how to plant them and how they looked good and which ones did well with what, and all of that was things Emory could help them with.
I do remember him talking about that he was not trying to create a park or a finished landscape. He was just trying to capture some of nature's beauty and bring it back and put it where people could enjoy it and where he could share it with other people.
Even in his 90s, Smith would bring friends on trips through Louisiana forests in search of native species.
So my father found himself in the woods and 2 or 3 other 70-year-old men trying to keep up with Emory, who was about 90 years old at the time.
A rich history of community involvement, environmental preservation, and landscape architecture has preserved the legacies of Reich and Smith with the volunteers, students, and educators of today.
Hilltop is really location, location, location. We're only 5 miles from LSU campus. It makes a local teaching facility.
As soon as you walk onto the property, I feel like it's almost like a pause. I mean, you can still hear some of the noise from the street, but it's muted by the trees. So it's always just fun to come out here and just slow down for a minute.
We've gotten together a group of students at LSU called the Meadow Keepers, and we've gone out twice so far this semester to collect seed. Hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years we'll complete that, and then it will kind of just perpetuate as an ecosystem.
Hilltop really shows us what an urban forest could be in the city.
Using environmentally conscious architecture and building practices, Hilltop's Imogene Newsom Brown facility achieved LEED certification, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. The length of the windows and the air conditioning system were designed to combat overheating by the sun while saving energy. All furnishings are made from recycled materials and sourced within 500 miles of the site. And when it rains, water drains into a cistern that's used in a special irrigation system to maximize water efficiency.
And it is the first, good for us, LEED certified building on the LSU campus. So we were very proud of that.
As important as Hilltop is as a physical legacy to Emory, and Annette, Emory had this really strong sense of fair play, of openness and honesty. He was a very open-minded person. And he had a strong sense of giving back to the community. That's part of the legacy I don't want to lose sight of.
And Emory would be pleased to see what's going on out here, and he'd love what's been done, and all of us keep thinking, oh, we hope Emory likes it.
To learn more about Hilltop and upcoming events, go to lsu.edu/Hilltop.
And everyone, that's our show for this week. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime, wherever you are, with our brand new app.
Download it for free from your app store. This upgraded version features news, public affairs, documentaries, how-tos, and many more programs. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us here at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. On this Thanksgiving holiday weekend, we thank you for watching.
Until next time, that's the state we're in.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.